All right, welcome, folks, to some more World Cup action. We have the continuance of the top four. This time it is more Canada versus Greece. Canada currently leads the series 2-0. Greece versus Canada will be playing two games today, so it looks like Greece will be trying to claw that back to a 2-2. So if we take a look at the deck lists here, we have Demagogue playing a Dragon and Action Johnny playing Crab. Let's take a quick look here at how Action Johnny has decided to build his crab deck at post restricted list. Looks like he's gone for a Seeker build. So we just saw Enagon in the previous match playing Keeper and taking Keeper Initiate, whereas Action Johnny has decided to go Seeker and has taken a long forgotten restricted card being Pathfinder's Blade. So, and then the other big addition is Obsidian Talisman in the place of Court Games. You use Obsidian Talisman to deal with status tokens. It is a zero cost unrestricted attachment that gives +1/+0. It's actually a pretty sweet attachment. We have a single copy of J Tetsubo and the Watch Commanders. So pretty attachment heavy. Only 15 events also. We do have 2 assassinations and 3 Way of the Crabs, so Demagogue is really going to have to be careful in how he buys his character. And then we have just classic stands. We have 3 common causes, 3 against the waves, and 1 mountain does not fall. The against the waves go well with the 3 copies of Asawa Tadaka. And then dynasty-wise, the other cool addition when you get to play Seeker is the addition of Blatant Swindler, who is a one-cost character with a just repeatable send home. It's quite powerful. And then to replace Iron Mines, we see Johnny is playing Roadside Inn. Letting the players know they can set to their mulligans by the time we get there. So this will be Demagogue's Dragon list. As you can see, only 23 copies of characters, and no conflict characters. Demagogue has chosen to take Keeper Initiate as his restricted card, and we are going to see basically if Demagogue can set up a wall of characters to buffer his either Togashi Mitsu or Togashi Yokuni from Way of the Crab. That will be basically the whole matchup in a nutshell. And then Demagogue has, after losing policy debate, still going with a very tower focused list, 23 attachments. So we are going to be getting, one of these 2 5-drops towered. All right, so players are on the way. Let's full screen. We have Demagogue does have a 5-drop in his opening flop, along with a 1-drop and a Keeper. This is a pretty good list, spot here. Demagogue has chosen to go to Keeper of Earth, by the way, instead of Keeper of Void. I will double check. I don't think he's playing any Earth-specific cards. I think it's just he wanted the ring effect for his Keepers. Let's just double check, though. He is playing Upholding Authority still on Keeper of Earth. Huh. That is surprising. It doesn't look like he's playing any rule locked cards that need Earth, so he's just playing it for the thing. But I don't know if that's worth the upholding hit. We'll see though. So Demagogue just buys his 1-drop and is going to do Earth on his first attack to get his Keeper Initiate out, or attempt to at least. And we see a double defense from Action Johnny here. He's probably going to use first action Fertile Fields. And then if I was Demagogue, I wouldn't really commit too much to this. I would definitely consider playing a Hurricane Punch if I had one. Oh, Dema just chooses not to. Either doesn't have it or chooses not to. Hurricane Punch actually isn't that great because it's Shiro Nishiyama. I didn't realize that Dan was on the old Stronghold also. So that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind here, is that Crab does have extra stats on defense, something they have not had when they've been on Kudenhita. We see a Tessin come out on the Vanguard Warrior. The Vanguard Warrior is a pretty safe poke here. Probably could go Political Water if you want, to then ready your Kaye Envoy to get a second attack. I think that's what I would probably do. I'd probably go after this Yokuni province and see what's up. I like going political here. Yep, and that's what we see because your Kaio Envoy doesn't have any political stats. Hits Midnight Revels. Actually savage. The the Midnight Revels in row is just incredibly savage here. And so Demagogue just chooses not to do anything. And we'll see a pass here. I wonder what Dan wants to do in this spot. He does have access to. Yeah, exactly. The classic Rebels Bowser 2-coster on turn 1. Just really smart plays by Dema. Dan does have access to 3 copies of Nezumi Infiltrator if you wanted to play a conflict character. I would consider playing one with no fate here, and then using your Vanguard Warrior on the Infiltrator. It does feel better than using your Vanguard Warrior on your Envoy. That way you represent Way of the Crab more with a character going through. We do see a common cause, though, which allows Dan to stand his Vanguard Warrior. I wonder why he does this, though, because now he doesn't have a character to ready with the Water Ring. Oh, I see. He's just going to go for the break. I think if you're, Demo's just gonna pass here. You're gonna take the advantage. The ring doesn't matter. Losing your 5-drop character is a big deal, but you really do want to mitigate damage. And Dan has a second Tessin, really going after restoration here. He needs to hit restoration this turn for a big advantage. Air is good here. Allows you to. Maybe you're supposed to Tessin your Infiltrator. But I guess you don't break Resto then if you do that, because you're Infiltrator. Yeah, Dema's RL card is Keeper. I don't know what other restricted card he would play, though, to be fair. And Dan does hit the Restoration, so really big hit here from Dan. If he has a card to play, like anything he wants to play in his Infiltrator and only has to discard 2, it's really big for the rest of the game. This is definitely how you have to play the matchup if you're Dan here. You need to put pressure on your opponent. You need to get your breaks in. You really just cannot allow the game to stagnate. Wow, Dan does not want to lose 3 cards. He values the 3 cards more than the tempo. Because this tells me he didn't have anything to pre-play. So at least he does know where it is, and he's going to just have to deal with the Shameful and the Upholding Authority. Obviously, that also tells me Dan doesn't have Pathfinder's Blade right now. So another reason to leave this up is if you think you can stick a Pathfinder's Blade, you can go ahead and get a free break on it. Really unfortunate for Dan not to have Pathfinder's Blade there. That would have been a great spot. Because even if you play it and it gets let go, that's the card you've played, so you don't feel as bad. So Dan very smartly keeps the Student of Anatomies. And we do see... We see Lost Papers bowing Nezumi Infiltrator, because it's the only character left in play. So I think Dema is going to buy Doom Shigenja, Investigator, and Yokuni. Maybe you buy Doom Shigenja, you buy Investigator with like 2 Fate, and then probably Yokuni 5. You could buy Yokuni with 3, and then you'll have no Fate, I guess? I don't know, that's a little bit aggressive. But you really can't afford to set yourself up for Assassination Way of the Crab here. So you either buy all 3. You could go Doomed, Investigator 1 and Yokuni 3, or you could go Investigator 2, Yokuni 2, and then just use High House of Light to keep your Yokuni around. It's going to be really interesting to see how Demo wants to play this out. Dema could take one more turn off and just bank even more fate. But he doesn't have any characters, and he has no stance. He really does need this Doom Shigenja to be his... I don't know. That's really risky, in my opinion. But he does... His provinces do help him. You know, two out of his 3 do discard cards, so... If you buy this with 2 and this with 2, you then have a Fate left over if you want to then Hawk Tattoo from the Swindler. Okay, so he goes Investigator 1. I wonder if he goes Investigator 1, Yokuni 2, and then banks 2 Fate. The Broken Province is Midnight Revels, my friend. Oh, it's just Siri. My friends call me Siri. I see it now. I was very confused on the just like string of letters. Yeah, it's Midnight Revels, Siri. Yeah, thanks, Siri. I appreciate that. Okay, so we do see the Blatant Swindler being bought. I think Dema has to buy this Yokuni. You cannot leave this board vulnerable to Assassination Way of the Crab and then be left with no characters. For instance, if you buy the Yokuni and then you get Assassination Way of the Crab, it feels bad, obviously, but that is, only one assassination left. And then what you can do is, if you get your Yokuni, you can win Earth Ring, and then you get your Keeper Initiate to buffer yourself. Because you do have this Keeper Initiate. This Keeper Initiate is really big to have early. It just gives you a huge amount of buffering for future turns. Yeah, exactly, Dario. As long as the Investigator doesn't get voided. However, if the Investigator gets voided, I think you're fine also, because you then just all in and win your Earth Ring. Um, you can get voided. It obviously sucks, but if you get voided, your Keeper Initiate will be left over. So you either need to prevent the void, or you need to win your Earth Ring. So those are the 2 options. And we do see the Yokuni with 2 Fate. So Dema has 2 Fate in his pool, which means that he does have access to movement via Hawk Tattoo, and he does have access to something like Duelist Training or Indomitable Will. The next thing that Dema's gonna need is a Seal of the Dragon, to turn his Yokuni into a monk and really get the train rolling. Dema or in if Dan wants to blank the Yokuni, he needs to do it as his first action after the draw phase ends. Because if you don't, the Yokuni can copy either Swindler or Investigator. Oh, okay, and we see a draw phase cloud the mind from Dema. Really does not want this to happen. So there's one of his fate, and then he can go ahead and use Hawk Tattoo to prevent the Swindler. No attachment hate in Dan's list, correct, Dario. He's on Phoenix Splash, so he doesn't have any copies of attachment hate. I think he might have some character. No copies of Mystic or Disciple of Shinsei, so he really has no ways to get rid of this Cloud the Mind. Disciple of Shinsei is actually pretty reasonable in Crab. You can trigger it with Common Cause, and the stat line is pretty good. Well, he doesn't. Yeah, so presumably Dan does not do a political attack as his first attack. So the Investigator, you're not really gonna get a chance to use it. Dan, unfortunately, is under the gun of Defend Your Honor here to resolve this assassination, Way of the Crab. So I feel like Dema, if he can get a High House of Light trigger on his Yokuni this turn and get it up to 3 Fate, and he, moves into the next turn, I really like his chances. He'll have a character to buffer, and he'll be able to take his turn off to bank fate and play all his cards. Yeah, I think that is the right thing to do, Arash, because then you leave fate on the rings for your High House of Light. And we do see a defense from Yokuni here. So what Dan can do is he can sacrifice Vanguard Warrior, um, to put a fate onto his Blatant Swindler, and then he can go for his assassination. Because there won't be a character to defend with, or to defend your honor with, he can land Assassination Way of the Crab. He does need to sacrifice his Vanguard Warrior though as his first action, or he is at the mercy of Defend Your Honor. If Dema has a second Cloud the Mind here for this Vanguard Warrior, it is an option. Although it's really aggressive when you know your opponent has copies of like Isawa Tadaka, who really you want to be clouding. And actually, Dema's only on 2 copies of Cloud the Mind, so he only has 1 left for the rest of this game. Okay, and so there's the Vanguard Warrior sacrifice that we see. I expect to see Assassination on Doom Shigenja, and then we'll see Way of the Crab sacrificing this Nizumi Infiltrator, which leaves Dema only with Yokuni, and Dema needs to then have Indomitable Will as as a card, and then he can send in Yokuni as on an attack, and if Blatant Swindler swindles you home, you're fine. Although, yeah, I mean, obviously Policy Debate would have been very good there, being able to send your Vanguard Warrior in. So there's the Assassination. And I expect to see a Way of the Crab now to kill this Investigator. The big problem for Dema is if okay, so Yokuni does copy the Investigator before it goes ahead and dies. Um, I think you actually can do a political attack with your Yokuni on fire. I mean, he's gonna know his hand in 1 turn here, or in 1 conflict by using Investigator. You can honestly like at the top level, the players have a general idea of what the hands are based on how the plays are. Like the moment Vanguard Warrior gets sacked there, Demo should immediately know that he has Assassination Way of the Crab, right? Like that's very very obvious. Second, the moment Yokuni blocks alone, Dan knows that Indomitable Will is coming with the 1 fate and everything. Like you can predict a lot of these plays. You don't actually need to see the cards. Obviously, seeing them does improve your clarity of the turn. But I think that at the highest level, you should generally have an idea of what's happening anyway. And we're gonna see the Investigator ability trigger here, unless Dan wants to Blatant Swindler right now. I like this Paul attack, Arash. I think this Paul attack is 100% correct. You force Blatant Swindler to send you home, and then you can. Yeah, that's fine. Then Dan can't attack Demo back, because then Demo can just use Yokuni on defense. Okay, the only way this is bad for Demo specifically is if you have the 2 remaining Way of the Crabs in your hand. And even then, you know, Demo will be able to take 1, eat the other one, and then be safe, and just be able to tower the 3rd Yokuni or a Mitsu. That's really what's gonna have to happen. Presumably, Dan does not have both both remaining copies of Way of the Crab. And if Demo's able to take one of them, if he has the second one, it's a huge deal. So Dan, I think, is thinking about how you. Okay, so we don't see a swindler activation here. So we can see an investigation here. So if I was Dema, I would investigate. I don't know what I'm investigating to. Probably water, because it's the least relevant. We see Shiro Nishiyama get activated. So we're on 4 Paul here with the enemies, Paul Favor and Shiro Nishiyama. Demagogue does not have any copies of Assassination, so you don't have to worry about that. Oh, we see a Daimyo's Gun by get triggered here. Both players bid 1. We have Daimyo's Gun by get attached to Yokuni, so Yokuni's up to 7 now. This does not count as a card played, by the way, because it is an action from your hand. So it does not count as a card being played. You're just triggering an action. So Dema does still need to play more cards if he wants to trigger High House of Light. Obviously, he needs to have a Seal of the Dragon too, to turn Yokuni into a monk. And there it is. Okay. So this is going to be a High House of Light turn that Dema's going for. He's going to take the Fate off of the Air Ring. He's going to investigate to Water probably. Let's see. Dan has not used Fertile Fields. You're correct. So in all these action sequences, if Dan just clicks his Fertile Fields, he'll be able to get a draw card. Yeah, you could wait for the Investigator also. If you don't have a card that you really care about in your hand, you can wait and then just kind of trade card for card. Because for instance, if you just use Fertile Fields and he investigates, you still trade 1 for 1. But if you don't, it's the same trade. You just don't tax Dema the Fate. And so we're seeing a break here. I really need to investigate this turn here if I'm Demagogue. I absolutely cannot go into next turn. Although Dema is first player, I actually think you could go for a second Indomitable Will here if you wanted. It is pretty risky though. And I would be more comfortable investigating. It's not risky because you're first player and you can buy a character first to buffer yourself. But also you can't defend this blatant swindler attack. But you also do tax Dan and Honor to do that, and you can then attack him back because you're last. And then we do see the investigation onto water, like I said. I expect a Way of the Crab to hit the bin if Dan has a second one. Otherwise, we'll see. And then Dan will be able to draw with Fertile Fields. If Dan has a copy of Isawa Tadaka, I would choose not to discard it because Dan's playing 3 copies of it, and if he plays 1, I just want his Tadakas to be not really live draws. Oh, Pathfinder's Blade is another good option. And as we see, we do have 2 copies of Isawa Tadaka in his hand. There's 2 copies of Watch Commander, and there is a copy of Way of the Crab. So Dema does value the Pathfinder's Blade over the Way of the Crab. I think I value the Way of the Crab more just for peace of mind over the province negation capabilities of Pathfinder's Blade. However, this does mean that Dema's provinces are a little bit safe here. mean, you just throw anybody as buffer because your 5-drop character is the only character that matters. You would literally have to flip no characters, right, to get with to suffer from Way of the Crab. Obviously, or if you flip like another 5. I am obviously with you, Arash. I prefer the safety. We do see the fertile fields draw afterwards, and we have against the waves readying student of enemies. We're gonna see a Paul attack here. Looks is going in with just the student. He does find the shameful, so this is big. So he definitely guesses right here. So this is gonna be big tempo for Dan here. I do think Dan is gonna gain 2 with this airing. He really, or I would gain 2. Although he does have 2 copies of Watch Commander, so we might see a steal here. And we do see a steal. Watch Commander obviously is a little bit awkward with Blatant Swindler. Yeah, exactly. Pat. However, you can't really use Let Go on Pathfinder's Blade and have it be that helpful. The issue being that your opponent also has copies of Watch Commander, Jade Tetsubo, and other attachments that require Let Go. Although Dema does flip a Tagashi Mendicant here, so I do think we're gonna see a Mendicant buy. This is like a perfect flop for Dema here. This. What do you mean like this flop? This is a perfect flop, Arash. I don't understand what you're talking about. This flop is just insane. I'm buying these 2 characters, and I have a buffer. I have a buffer from Assassination, and I'm just gonna win my Earth Ring on my first attack. So there's the Mendicant 1 Fate. I would buy the Mystic. I do not want to get Assassinate Way of the Crab. Yep, and that's what we see here. You don't even need Double Keeper, right? You really only needed the 1. Like, say he doesn't even flip the Mystic here, you just hard buy your Keeper with no Fate. I wonder what Dema will bid here. Dema does like to apply dishonor pressure, if possible. And Dema does bid 1. Yep. And you know this taxes the Swindler activations too, along with makes the Watch Commanders in Dan's hand a lot worse. Dan does have access to Asawa Tadaka coming down, along with you know the Watch Commanders aren't. I don't think Dan will play a Watch Commander this turn because there's just a face-up Mystic, and I think it's super aggressive to do that. What is the Crab Row? It is Fertile Fields, Shameful Display, Pilgrimage, and Upholding Authority with Kuni Wasteland on box because Dan is Seeker of Void. Okay, so the way Dema's gonna play this is he's gonna basically say, "Hey, I'm gonna grab this 2 Fate on the Water Ring. You can't do anything about it because if you want to attack me Earth, I will win and get my keepers." Yeah, Dan, or I mean, Dema is played a copy of 4 Temples Advisors to draw a card. So Dema has this card in draft also, and it's another way to draw cards for this deck because this deck really needs to draw cards to fuel its game plan, and your proving grounds are less reliable without policy debate. So this is just kind of another extra way to draw cards. This card sucks, Jasper. I mean, like realistically, this card is just. This actually is about as fair of a draw attachment as you can get. We do see an above question on the Tadaka, which means that he can't be against the waived, which is actually huge. I think I'm probably... Or common caused, yeah. Actually, you're right. I wonder if we're going to see the Tadaka leave with a favorable ground now. So, like, Four Temples Advisor is actually probably the like baseline for a fair draw on an or fair repeatable draw on an attachment. It's restricted, it costs 2, it doesn't give that many stats for its cost, and it has a a much harder triggering condition than things like Studious or Tactical Ingenuity. So like I actually think it's fair. The so like Four Temples Advisor is actually like a pretty well designed card for the design space that it's in. Um, yeah, exactly, Siri. Now and then you do get the double draw. We do see Yokuni moving in here, and we see a return the offense on Yokuni versus Tadaka. This could be a high House of Light turn here, where because Demon's played 3 cards already. We see Tadaka trigger here, removing 4 characters. He's got the fuel ready to go for next turn. Demo's actually not playing Tadakatsu, which is unfortunate because that's his invitational card. So he's dropped the Tadakatsu mantra package because Dragon Tattoo is no longer in the deck. So Dan actually chooses Censure to be discarded out of Hurricane Punch, Way of the Dragon, and Defend Your Honor. I don't know if that's right. I'm leaving with Tadaka if I'm Dan. I'm just not having it anymore. I'm not winning the conflict, and I want my big attack. I might have gone after the Way of the Dragon. Dema can copy Tadaka here, and I think he should. He can then remove some characters to make Dema or Dan discard, and that's what we see. We see Yokuni copy Tadaka. Well, he he did. Well, you say he did. He literally just did it. All right, is Dema smart? Okay, Dema did remember not to remove his Keeper Initiate from the discard. Well, based on the delay, I'm pretty sure you said he did because you thought he already did when you were wrong. Oh man, Arash hits me with the "you were wrong." All right, I guess you're right. I can't argue with that. No arguing with that. And so Dema chooses an attachment to be discarded. He chooses a Watch Commander. Pretty smart actually. He doesn't have, there's a lot of attachments he wants to let go. I said he should copy Tadaka now, and then he literally did it. It's right here. He uses Yokuni to copy. It's not like he used it up here. So there's the break. Dan is down to 4 honor here. So Dan did use both his favorable grounds to prevent the unopposed. There's the pre-play of the Watch Commander onto Tadaka. We did not see High House of Light get triggered there. I would sacrifice this Mia Mystic to discard the Watch Commander. I guess you don't have to. You can wait till the end of the turn. Well, there's 2 papers in the discard here, so it's not really maneuvering against papers. It's not really baiting the Earthring, right? Dan just cannot attack the Earthring. Like, it's hardly bait. It's like if Dan attacks the Earthring, he loses the game. So I guess in a sense it is bait, but also it's very very low hanging bait. He should definitely attack Voidring. I agree. This attack is terrible. Has Dan not looked at his role? Maybe Dan thinks he's Void. Wait, he's debating him. Dan is falling for it. I don't think Dan can beat this Yokuni in a fight. Like this, I do not think this is a fight he will win. If Dan commits to this attack, Dema can defend, and okay, there we go. That's the right one. There we go. There's the Void Ring. Because if Dan committed to the attack, all Dema has to do is block first action Mia Mystic the Watch Commander, and then it's open season. Alright, so this is the correct attack here. Dema must defend this. I actually don't think he can play 5 cards to trigger High House of Light. And the other issue is he needs the fate on the Earth. He needs to attack Earth to get his keepers. So I think you defend this with Yokuni. Will you just block Arash? You don't need to Mystic a Pathfinder's Blade unless you don't want to block. And on this Void Ring, I do think you need to block. Yeah, that's what we see. And I would discard this Watch Commander as my first action. Actually, I guess you are afraid of exactly Assassination Way of the Crab. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how. I honestly have not played it since Tomoya, so I don't know. Tomoya, your name is Tom, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're Tom Nice, right? Yeah. So like I don't know Tom. I haven't seen Dema play this list recently. So we see the Obsidian Talisman come down, which can remove the honored status from this Yokuni. So if he does that, you are then safe to Mystic the Watch Commander because Dan cannot play Assassination then. Yeah. Defend Your Honor also, Jasper. Of course. Yeah, he does have a Defend Your Honor in his hand. I wonder if Demo will Mystic this Obsidian Talisman. So, statistics-wise, if it costs Dan an honor, and it is -2 skill, because Dan has given Yokuni +1 skill, and he's gonna lose 3, so it's a net of 2. So there is the Obsidian Talisman trigger. I do think that I want to Mystic this Watch Commander before playing cards, but Videma's gonna play it slow, and is just gonna eat some honor loss here. I just think that losing your honor is like low gain. I guess he's maybe afraid of Jade Tetsubo specifically. However, if you have a let go, you're really safe because Dan cannot play. Dan doesn't have Defend Your Honor actually, so you don't even have to worry about that. I mean, he's run half his deck. He just should have a let go. And we just see Dan loses the conflict, and so this Mendican is gonna rumble on in. Against leaving the student like doesn't accomplish that much, right? Like if you don't have any, this whole sequence here proves to me that Dan doesn't have any military pumps because he didn't want to push Dema to playing cards. We do see a common cause to ready the student enemies. This above question is just really good in this specific spot. When your opponent wants to be readying this Tadaka, they can't. Above question definitely serving, pulling double duty, and we see him hit pilgrimage. Dan will not get seeker fate as shameful display will slip this turn, and we do see the Four Temples advisors trigger. Dema can move in Yokuni if he has a duelist training. Indeed, ban Four Temples advisors. Let's start the rally. It's too powerful. Draws cards. Dema had a Hurricane Punch. He played it already. So a Nuzui Infiltrator does come down, and I wonder if Dema has another Hurricane Punch. My goal here is to just win the ring. I don't need to resolve the effect. I just want to trigger my Keeper Initiates into play. I wonder if Dan waived the crabs here. If you wave the crab, it's not that bad, because you get rid of this Mystic, which will kill your Watch Commander. You need to do it now, though, if you are going to do it, because otherwise these Keeper Initiates are going to buffer you. We do see the Duelist training plus move-in that I talked about. This doesn't... I mean, with Crab Box, though, the Mendicant doesn't beat both characters, so... Dema's gonna need, like, a Bonsai or something. You also can't play Wave the Crab now because you'll get Defender honored. You needed to play it before Yokuni moved into the conflict. So this Mystic is definitely gonna kill the Watch Commander now. We know Dan's hand. I know a couple of cards in Dan's hand still. He has a another copy of Tadaka. I believe he has another copy of Against the Waves. He has a Wave the Crab. So Dema should know 3-4 cards in his hand still. So there's the duel to bow the Infiltrator. And we see a Fine Katana onto the Mendicant, and then we see the third Tessin come down to stand the Infiltrator. Dema, hello, Arash? Arash, you're gonna lose your mod privileges with this with this line of questioning. We had this conversation. I know it's been a long turn. I do understand it's been a long turn. And so we see the Fine Katana come down. There's a second Fine Katana. Yeah, the Mendicant Tower, here it comes. And exactly what Dema needed. He forces the win on the conflict, gets both of his keepers. Yeah, obviously, Siri. Just like the philosopher is the goose, right? Like, the monks in Dragon Clan are animals. Tom says he's played 10 games with Kuon in this turn. Agreed. So we do see the infiltrator come down, and we're gonna go see. We're gonna see an attack here. I gotta go air here. So Dan is breaking over the top of these two keeper initiates. If Dema can just block and play court games, though, it's just gonna feel really bad for Dan. Oh wait, Dema doesn't have any copies of court games. Huh. Neither deck has any copies of court games. This is a weird matchup. Yeah, I mean this attack actually looks pretty free. Dema doesn't. I don't think Dema has a lot of ways. So we see High has a light triggering on keeper initiate. Interesting. Not sure. Maybe Dema wanted to feel like he used his box or something. Yeah, neither deck has court games. So the reason Dan doesn't have court games is because most of his characters are low glory, and he is using Obsidian Talisman in that place. To kind of control status tokens. However, Dema not having a single copy is a little bit rough. You really are then relying on Mitsu to trigger the firing. I think that Dan has. If Dan does not get this break here, he will have lost the game. I mean, even getting this break doesn't help him. I lied. I think that Dan is actually just has lost the game at this point. Because then you're stuck on Sacred Sanctuary. Yeah, exactly, Tom. It does feel like Dan has this above question has really just been the nail in the coffin. It feels like. Yeah, I mean, both players are just have been very methodical. I'm absolutely passing if I'm Demagogue. I'm allowing my opponent to discard 2 cards, and I am getting my opponent stuck on Sacred Sanctuary. Absolutely. I don't like this line of play. Absolutely do not like this line of play. Why do we care about this break so much? No, Tom, this is nothing about honor pressure because he didn't win the ring. He just wanted to prevent the break. He just wanted to prevent the break. But I don't think that preventing that break there is that relevant. I think I'm pretty happy with my opponent discarding 2 cards. We're both on low cards here. This lost paper is just insane. Hits papers. Very just so intelligent. Holy crap. The chat just going in on that lost papers flip. I'm buying Swordsmith with 1 fate here, and probably going for. Actually, you can't even High House of Light. You need to buy this Investigator because you need a Fate on a ring, and the Fire Ring is gonna get attacked. So I think we're buying Investigator, one Fate, and then passing. I think I might cycle of Rebirth onto. Actually, no, because he's not gonna buy Casada, so you don't care. Yeah. Okay. So man, it always feels nice that when you call for a play and then the player does that play, it makes you feel really smart. So we do see the Investigator one Fate, like I said, and we're gonna see. I think Dema just save the rest of his Fate here. Um, with Investigator, Yokuni copy Tadaka, and there's only one character in here, so he can only Way of the Dragon on Yokuni is actually not as good. No, he can't. He can't, Christian, because your Investigator can put a ring on or a Fate on a ring. That's why you had to buy the Investigator. That's the whole point of this Investigator buy is you give yourself fuel for your high House of Light trigger. Um, I would just use Yokuni onto Tadaka instead of. This bid is so weird by Demagogue. Actually, maybe he really just he needed fuel. Actually, no, I lied. This bit isn't weird at all. He actually needs fuel to turn on High House of Light, because he cannot afford this Yokuni to die. So the 5 bit actually makes sense. It's just really awkward with how the last turn played out. Um, and also not killing this Watch Commander now. So you don't want to copy Investigator. I would just copy Tadaka, because it doesn't cost me a Fate to discard a card. You know, all the cards in Dan's hand are pretty good. Um, I don't know. I don't think he can win the Water Ring. Like if he just sends the Vanguard Warrior in on water, the Mendicant blocks and then just passes. So we see a double defense come here. Um, just to block, I guess. I don't know. Double blocking's fine. Your attack is gonna be this character onto Void, at Pilgrimage probably, because you don't want to attack into Upholding. And Dema passes with just being up here. It's gonna turn Kasada off. You can just go double attack here with on Void with these two characters, and then pay Fate to a different ring, and then trigger High House of Light. That will allow you to break Pilgrimage, Void Kasada, or Tadaka, either one, and feel really good about going into being first player next turn. You can choose to take any type of Pathfinder's Blade from your opponent. Although I guess the Vanguard Warrior does stop either character from leaving play. So I wonder if Okay, he just goes with the Yokuni. He doesn't need to bring an escort because Dan does not have any copies of court games. So this keeper initiate actually just can sit home. He's gonna copy investigator, and then he's gonna be able to use investigator's ability to put a fate on a ring to then use it for High House of Light. Yeah, he has to copy investigator with this attack. The way that he is attacked. Okay, so he does have the second cloud. He's gonna cloud this Vanguard warrior, and now one of the big characters is going to get to leave play. It's gonna be this Tadaka because it has the watch commander. He needs to Dema just needs to remember his sequencing here, and he needs to copy investigator. Oh, so if the ring gets swapped, the cards played tracker resets. Is that how that works, Tom? What do you mean by sticks to the void ring? Oh, I see what you're saying. Like over here. I see. I see it now. Yeah, there's the Yokuni copy investigator. Yeah, exactly, Darth Air. This is where you play Cloak of Night on the Yokuni. Absolutely. Um, I mean, we still have to make sure that Yokuni gets the High House of Light trigger. Like if he's not able to trigger High House of Light, you know that is important. But I have a feeling he's going to be able to do it. I just want to see it before calling it. Demo also is low on time, so I mean that is also something, you know, Dema does need to pick up his pace of play a little bit just to make sure that he does win a game he should. Both players have definitely been pretty methodical this game, but I feel like the amount of time I give to people is quite fair. I mean, that's just both players have been methodical. I mean, there's just no way you can time them out, Dario. Like the way the chess clocks work is like after you pass your action, there's a small buffer. It's just Dema's not playing fast enough. There's a fan onto investigator. Yeah, we're gonna go for the man. Dan's hand is just not very good. Interesting that he chose to he didn't discard this J Tetsubo. There's a Tadaka trigger. That's not the point. You Tetsubo the tertiary characters to set up Way of the Crab. Sure, sure. Like the fan is fine. It doesn't actually matter here, but also the fan, I guess, is the only way that a demo can take a break here. I don't know. I don't see the fan as being that big of a threat. But in this spot, it's probably right. There's the High House of Light trigger to put the fate onto Yokuni. And now with the no fan, I guess this prevents Dan from winning a ring on the next attack. I mean, the game has been over for a little bit. I don't know why people say GG, right? Like obviously it's GG. Like the game is over. Dan just hasn't lost actually lost the game yet. But also like it's not like it's still a card game, so it's GG when the game is actually over. Sure. I mean, yes, I would say the game is over here, but also the game is not over because people still get to play. So I mean, usually you just say it's GG once the game is actually over. And no one's gonna concede in these games here. At a tournament, I would probably concede if I was Dan to just like go, relax before the next round. Well, he needs to flip his last copy of Lost Papers to even have a chance. But that doesn't even really matter because Sacred Sanctuary will prevent Dema from losing. Yes, there we go. Worker B has found the answer. He needs to find Dispatch to Nowhere. Yeah, Dispatch to Nowhere is the actual card he needs here. I mean, Dan's gonna die on this attack here that's coming up. Like, even if he gets papers, I'm pretty sure he loses to the Paul attack from just Mitsu and Investigator. All right, well, Dan didn't flip anything, and he actually flipped a Roadside in, which is actually just the worst card to flip. Roadside in this matchup is actually really bad. Because the Roadside in can allow... I mean, Seal of the Dragon is the problem. Seal of the Dragon has always been the problem in Dragon. I've literally been saying this for 2 years. Since 2018 Worlds, I have actively told Tyler that Seal of the Dragon is the problem card. I mean, that's just how L5R works, though, Dario. Is that for the most part, all the good cards just get put into all the good cards get put into generic decks. Like that's why the Phoenix deck just adds all the best cards that it got into the same deck, right? Like it's not really a problem synonymous only to Dragon. It's kind of just a problem with the game in that the number of good cards that clans get through cycles is so few that there's no way to there's just no way for you to be able to curb them just going into every deck. I mean, we're just gonna see a Paul attack here with all of the characters. I mean, Kuni Wasteland is gonna stop abilities from triggering, but also there's just 22 political skill here versus 2. Can go to 4 with box. I would have conceded after seeing the dynasty flip, but I guess kudos for Dan to see the numbers first. Yep, Dema just needs to hit pass. You're gonna need a whole army of Nizumi to stop this break, Siri.